Debris are scattered around an engineering building at the University of Washington. Overnight, the university says around 30 protesters were arrested for entering the building and damaging things inside. The protesters say they want the university to cut ties with Boeing because of its support of Israel's military.
Around 3:30 this morning, we saw the last of the demonstrators leave. The last of the arrests were around 2 a.m. But this morning here, there's a lot left over from this here. You can see that there is furniture, these scooters that are all piled up against the doors. This is what it looks like all over the interdisciplinary engineering building, which was at the center of this protest.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, here live in Washington, D.C. Today is May 6, 2025, Anno Domini. Folks, we got a problem. We got a problem down in North Carolina. No, unfortunately, I'm not talking about the lack of water power, the lack of communications, the lack of electricity out in western North Carolina. No, unfortunately, so we have a little bit of an invasive species going on, a little bit of a pestilence, a rodent species, if you will. And it's that elusive species known as the North Carolina rhino. Yes, the North Carolina rhino, who is eating all the crops, who is doing everything they can to destroy the MAGA movement, to not stand in line with the wishes of the American people. No, we got a rhino situation, rhino on the loose in North Carolina, and he goes by the name of Thom Tillis. Yes, oh, Thom Thumb over there. We got Thom Thumb. Say that 5 times fast. He says that he's going to oppose the nomination of Eagle Ed Martin, the right-hand man of Phyllis Schlafly. Eagle Ed Martin, who ended all of the corrupt, ongoing cases against the J6ers. Thom Tillis refuses to support Ed Martin's nomination for the U.S. Attorney of Washington, D.C. We're not going to have it. We're not going to play any of these games. We're not going to play any of these games. Here's the phone number, folks. 202-222-6342. 202-224-6342. 202-224-6342. Be polite, but be patriotic. Why are you not supporting America's choice for U.S. Attorney? And do you understand that if you do not support this and you block Eagle Ed Martin, the Patriots' choice, then who gets to pick the U.S. Attorney? Judge Boasberg. So what's it going to be? What's it going to be, old Thumb? Is it going to be the American people's choice or Judge Boasberg's choice? You have the power in your hands. And this is a binary situation. Don't give me that, oh, well, my prison. No. It's a binary choice. You stand with the people of the United States. You stand with the people of North Carolina. Or do you stand with Judge Boasberg, an unelected Obama communist who has been struck down again and again repeatedly at the Supreme Court? Folks, call him and ask. We'll be right back.
understand what America First truly means.
Welcome to the Second American Revolution.
All right, Jack Posobiec back live here, Washington, D.C. It's an interesting day weather-wise here in Washington, D.C. I want to welcome in, by the way, the Salem Radio Network and the Charlie Kirk Show. But folks, it's a little bit cloudy, a little bit rainy, but we'll get through it together. Folks, before we get into all this, I want to talk about Silence Faraday products, because this is huge. The Sistine Chapel this week, they're going to turn the entire Sistine Chapel into a Faraday cage to block incoming and outgoing signals. That's how secure the Sistine Chapel and the conclave to choose the next pope is going to be. Well, as it turns out, you can have that same level of protection as a papal conclave for your own personal devices. How do you do that? Silence Faraday products. They block all incoming and outgoing signals so that your devices are invisible and safe from the outside world. They got backpacks, they got phone sleeves, pants even, believe it or not. I think my brother Kevin might be wearing some of those right now. At least he claims he is. It blocks the signal blocking technology and wireless signals, giving you the peace of mind that your data doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Just place your device inside, close it, and that's it. You're safeguarded from unauthorized access. Between the government, big tech, corporate America, and criminals, your privacy is compromised 24/7. There's no other option. You have to protect yourself. That starts with Silent. So go Silent today at slnt.com/poso to save 15% plus free shipping on qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/poso for 15% off and free shipping. Well, folks, last night there was a massive Antifa outpouring. I was just an attack. I'm going to say it was an attack up in Seattle at the University of Washington. Speaking at the University of Washington, tonight with Riley Gaines is Olivia Krolchuk, who's been absolutely outspoken on issues of transgender in women's sports and so many other issues. She is a free speech advocate, really a warrior for free speech. She joins us now. Olivia, are you prepared to still speak tonight, even after the fires, the assaults, the attacks, and everything that happened on campus last night at UW?
Honestly, I feel more prepared than ever because it just lets me know that they need someone on campus to explain to them that free speech does in fact matter. So I'm very excited. I know Riley is too. I think that the security will be beefed up from the last event in January where they held me hostage. So I'm very excited about tonight.
So, this is, let me just walk through this. So, Seattle, that's a place where, and I happened to see a video last night where one of the Antifas was even talking about 2020. So this is 5 years ago, almost, this month. 5 years ago this month was George Floyd. That's what kicked off the Summer of Love. And there was no place more prevalent than the Summer of Love than Seattle itself, and Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, where my brother and I went in and infiltrated. We shot a documentary in there. We released that later, did a whole book on the whole thing, and it got extremely violent. That violence is back. What steps are you and Riley taking to make sure that you and your guests are safe tonight?
We have a lot of security. We're bringing our own security team this time because, of course, last time the campus security did not take the necessary precautions. And certainly the University of Washington themselves, I think they're watching themselves this time because the last event, they were posting on the official University of Washington Instagram accounts the flyer to the protest, encouraging the students to come, to bring their friends, noisemakers, to wear masks. They haven't been doing that this time. So I think we will have a lot better security. And I know there's a lot of people who are anxious about showing up, but I promise everything will be just fine.
For folks who don't know quite that there is a backstory here, tell people how it happened the last time you showed up at UW.
Yeah, so in January 21st, the day after inauguration, we kicked off the Riley Gaines Center tour, the semester tour at University of Washington. And I showed up on campus and immediately was met with backlash, flyers every 10 feet with my face on them, the eyes crossed off, saying, "Go home, Nazi. If we see you, we'll kill you." There were about 250 protesters, Antifa, of course, dressed from head to toe in black. The same group we saw last night destroy campus and light campus on fire. They showed up and and blockaded me and the Turning Point students in the classroom and did not let us out, banging on doors, breaking windows, everything you can think of. Hours later, eventually made it home. I'm very excited to go back. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond this time, whether they will protest and give us that attention, or if they're just going to step back because they know we're not going to step back.
Well, you saw the university came in, and thank God that you and everyone were safe. We saw the university come in as well as police. It looks like, I haven't been able to go through all the videos in detail just yet, but it looks like there were elements of university police as well as SPD that got involved last night, different units. And post-millennial, of course, we had a reporter out there also covering it live. I think a couple reporters in Turning Point had the great Jonathan Cho from Frontlines, of course, and I'm sure he'll be there tonight as well to see if any of this kicks off. Have you been, or at least your security team, as you know, and please don't, you don't have to give us any operational security details, don't break OPSEC, but have you been able to be in good communication with the university regarding these security and safety issues?
For sure. That's definitely something they're handling on their end, but they're going to make sure they would never let us walk into a room and make sure it's not secure. So that definitely won't be a problem this time. And I'm definitely excited to see Jonathan. He does great work. He was there at the last event. I think they chased him after I was taken out of the building. So he's definitely getting into the belly of the beast for sure.
Well, and that's just it. These people, they're remorseless. They are absolutely beyond reason. There's no point in reasoning with them. They are there based on petty resentment, and they are based on hate. To your point, did any of them even, they're labeling ridiculous slurs at you, ridiculous, just targeted and emotional words at you. Did any one of them at any point or online, even try to engage you once?
None of them apologize, of course. It's funny because I reposted one of the videos from January on my X account, and someone just commented on it a couple hours ago, one of the students, and said they should have shot you in the head while they had you cornered. I was like, are you kidding me? These are students at the University of Washington, and the university is enabling these students at this point. Enabling not only the students, but the Antifa people who aren't even supposed to be on campus. This is not a protest, it's terrorism, and it's time that University of Washington steps in. I know we did see some action with the police, some arrests made last night, but to be honest, they'll probably be released before the event.
Well, and then of course that's exactly what they're doing, because I'm just praying for your guys' safety tonight. I mean, I expect no matter what I say, you're going to go through at the event, and I would too, but you do have to do what you can to be safe. Use decoy cars, use all the alternate entrances, all that stuff to make sure that they can't determine exactly where you are when you're going to and from different areas. I've even had places where I've had been protested on campus, and we've had, depending on where we are, we've had situations where the local police will even escort us out in our vehicle, so they'll give us like a convoy, and we'll be able to come in and out just to be able to speak. And this speaks to, I would say, the conditions of our country today, because you've got some people going out there and saying, it's the right that's the real threat right now. The right is going too far. I'm sorry, Olivia, I know you just said you got to town, but you've watched these videos, I'm sure, in your security team. Did they detect any elements of the right? Was it the woke right that was out there last night setting fire to campus?
Of course not, because we're not psychotic. They are absolutely crazy. These individuals are, I don't know what went wrong in their lives to make them think it's okay to set the campus on fire, to take people hostage, to take over buildings. It's insane. And once again, like I said already, University of Washington is completely enabling these students and these members of Antifa. They have been doing this for years, especially prominent this last year on campus. And they're just letting it happen. It's the same people over and over again. And since they're not making any arrests, they should be deporting the people who are here, and they're advocating for other countries. Let's deport them at this point. The university
they did say, though, President Trump, Alcatraz not too far away from Seattle as the crow flies. So maybe there's some more options. Let's hold you over, because I want to get into this, because people need to hear this story and understand what's actually going on college campuses in America, even still today in 2025. Jack Posobiec, we're on with Olivia Krolczyk, who's going to be walking into the lion's den tonight, the chaos, the maw of hell itself. Jack Posobiec, come right back. Quick break.
back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney spending some time at the White House with President Trump today. The two discussed tariffs and the current relationship the United States and our northern neighbor enjoy. During a joint media availability, the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state, as you can imagine, was addressed.
It would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace, that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. We have done that in the past, and part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security.
President Trump's idea of bringing Canada into the Union could soon get a bit more traction as the premier of Canada's Alberta province says she'll hold a referendum next year on separating from Canada. However, she'll only do so if a citizen-led petition on the idea gets the required signatures. Premier Danielle Smith, who is similar to a U.S. governor, says she doesn't support the idea, but she does support the people of her province having a voice and says that she'll accept whatever decision they reach. One of the concerns raised in oil-rich Alberta is that Canada's federal government hamstrings the province's ability to produce and export oil, which the premier argues costs the province billions of dollars. There's still no word, though, if Alberta would try to become part of the United States if it were to secede from Canada. Quickly, all 133 cardinals who are expected to take part in the Papal conclave, which begins tomorrow, are said to be in Rome at the moment, and they are preparing to select the next pope. The conclave is traditionally held in secret and will take place behind closed doors inside the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. That will start tomorrow afternoon. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates.
Today, they talk about influencers. These are influencers. And they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, he's done a great job.
All right, Jack Posobiec, here we are back live, Human Events Daily, Washington, D.C. Sky clearing up a little bit right now over the White House, but we will see how that plays out for the rest of the day. I'm doing the White House weather report over here. Let's bring in the third hour of Charlie Kirk on the Salem Radio Network as well. Folks, there's a dirty little secret in the mobile phone industry that the major carriers, they don't want you to know about it. Did you know that the big three mobile companies own all the towers in the U.S.? So if that's the case, what's the difference between the carriers? Well, there's really only one, which actually lives by the same values as you. And the only one allows to choose the best network for you. That's Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and the only one that allows you access to all three networks. So keep your phone, keep your number, and now with your values, you can keep them too. With Patriot Mobile, you know that none of your money is going to the woke left, DEI, or causes that have put America last. You're worried about switching? Don't. Their U.S.-based customer service team makes switching easy, and you'll get the same service without compromising quality or convenience. Just go to patriotmobile.com/POSO or call 972-PATRIOT right now. Get a free month of service with promo code POSO. Don't be fooled by other mobile providers pretending to share your values. Support one that actively supports the First Amendment and Second Amendment, as well as the sanctity of life for brave veterans and first responders. Make the switch today. Go to patriotmobile.com/POSO or call 972-PATRIOT. I want to bring in Olivia Krolczyk back here again. Olivia, look, you're going to speak tonight. You're going to give a speech about the same basic freedoms that, I was just talking about there, First Amendment, freedom of association, these types of things. What does it say that we've gotten to a point in this country where there are people who are, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be dismissive of this. There are people who have called for you personally to be killed over you going and giving this speech. What does that say about where we've come?
It says we're in a very dangerous place. It should not be this hard to advocate safely for free speech, but not only free speech, but protection of women's sports. That's the main issue that I focus on. Women deserve safety and privacy in their sports, in their locker rooms. They deserve free access. They do not have to compete against these males. And it blows my mind that we have an entire leftist group, the group of Antifa, promoting men to compete against women. It should not be this difficult to reach them and, tell them that this is the truth, that women do deserve to have equal access, that they are biologically different than men. I don't know if they skipped fourth grade science class, but it really should not take me, a 22-year-old, having to go to college campuses to say men are actually not women.
And what it comes down to is this, it's they know that deep down, they know all this, but it's never about the things they claim it is. It's about the fact that they want to be out there burning things down, attacking people. They don't actually care about the issues. They don't even actually care about equality or gender fluidity or any of this. They want the ability to have an excuse to go and do these things. And why? They do it out of resentment. They do it out of hate. They do it out of petty jealousy over people who are better than them, more skilled than them, people who are more attractive than them, people who are more successful than them. That's what it always comes down to. And by the way, that's why they wear the black masks, isn't it?
It's the victim mentality. They have to be oppressed and victimized by every single thing. We see Elon Musk making all these amazing changes, making sure that our tax dollars are going to things that actually matter. And somehow they made it a problem. Somehow they're being oppressed and victimized by finding out where our dollars are being wasted. How do they spin that around? I don't know.
Well, and that's what it is. Olivia, we've just got a minute left. Godspeed to you. I will be saying a prayer for you this evening. I'll have my rosary out. Hope if you don't have one, I hope you can grab one. But where can people go to watch tonight, and where can they go to follow you as you go through this endurance?
They can find it at therallygainCenter.org or on my social media, Olivia Krolczyk. It's KROLCZYK. I'm on X, Instagram, and TikTok.
Look, that's how it goes, folks. That's how it goes. If you just want to get out there and give a speech about something that stands against the revolution, about something that actually says, you know something, maybe there's a reason that our society was built the way that it was. And maybe, just maybe, if we go around tearing things down, that it won't always lead to good outcomes. And perhaps, just perhaps, we are going to have to tear some of these bad people down so that we can get society back to where it ought to be. That's the situation, folks. We didn't make it, but we are going to fix it. That's the difference between the new right, the populist nationalist movement, and the old right. Debate Club. This isn't Debate Club. This is action, action, action. Every day, here in, here out, Human Events Daily, all around the world. We'll be right back. Jack Posobiec, Real America's Voice, and the Salem Radio Network.
Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. Thanks so much for being along for the ride. The Trump administration is making some major moves when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry. On Monday, the president signed his latest executive order seeking to spur domestic prescription drug manufacturing. While the order directs the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to reduce the amount of time it takes for American drug manufacturing plants to be approved and come online, it also calls on the FDA to increase fees and inspections on foreign manufacturing. And then there's this.
An historic day, the end of gain-of-function research funding by the federal government and also controls by private corporations on gain-of-function studies. This was the kind of study that was engaged in by the United States military and intelligence agencies.
Gain-of-function research is what widely is believed to have created the COVID-19 virus that killed millions of people around the world. Secretary Kennedy says President Obama declared a moratorium on future use of gain-of-function research here in the United States back in 2014. However, much of that research was instead moved overseas to places like the Wuhan lab in China, yet still it was funded by various U.S. agencies. New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney meeting with President Trump at the White House today. The two are discussing tariffs and the current relationship the U.S. and our northern neighbor enjoy. During a joint media availability, the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state was also addressed.
It would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several.
That was President Trump and Mark Carney meeting today in the Oval Office at the White House. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates. As always, it's good to have you along for the ride.
And Jack, where's Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. We have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys who should be getting Pulitzers.
All right, Jack Posobiec, here we are back live, Human Events Daily, Salem Radio Network, Charlie Kirk Hour 3, as well as the Real America's Voice Network. I want to also, of course, give a shout out to all of our folks watching, the thousands and thousands that watch every day on the Rumble chat, on the Getter chat. I need to do a better job of getting in there, but you never know when Poso is going to be in there because sometimes we do pre-tape. It's true. And of course, the email, as always, is 1776 at humanevents.com, 1776 at humanevents.com. Folks, I got to tell you something. Listen up. If you are a homeowner, you got to hear this, because when's the last time you checked on your home title? See, that's the legal proof that you own your house. If you're like me, the answer is, probably never. Problem is, in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles so much more easily. And your equity is what they're targeting through identity theft. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, then they use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with the county, and boom, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they take out loans using your equity or even sell your property. You won't even know what's happened until you get a collection of or a foreclosure notice. That's why you need to stop what you're doing and find out today if you're already a victim. Use promo code POSO at HomeTitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HomeTitleLock.com now. Use promo code POSO. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code POSO. And I got to say, folks, that yes, that's a partner of ours here at Human Events Daily. But you know something? This stuff is real. Because guess what? Here's a story that my team just pulled up. They found this out of Fort Myers, Florida, in Lee Acres. Here's a Florida woman, and she attempted to steal 2 homes using this same exact method. So what I wanted to do to explain all this, I wanted to bring on Matthew Cox, who is a public educator and, in fact, a former home title thief himself, to walk us through cases like this and just this entire world. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate you having me.
So I'm reading this story. It says that this woman, Suneem Bradford, she was convicted of trespassing and theft. She attempted to steal 2 homes, falsifying property deeds. And I've got to read this quote because it's just so audacious. When she told the officers, "Finders, keepers, losers, weepers," she claimed that the homes were abandoned. She kept insisting that they were abandoned. As it turns out, they were undergoing repairs from recent hurricane damage. Look, if you live in the Florida area or anywhere in the Gulf, Gulf of America, that this is going to be something that you're dealing with on a regular basis. Walk us through what it is that she was attempting, because this probably isn't the first time she's done it.
So I believe in this case, she had filed false deeds on the properties, trying to say that they were her property. And I want to say that there was some type of an issue with one of the deeds, and eventually, I want to say the homeowners came back and they found her squatting in the house, and she was basically trying to take possession of the properties, which I have no doubt she would have eventually tried to sell.
So she's trying to sell, so she could sell the property and then potentially, so that's a full-on sale where she's claiming that she's the owner of the property and then going through, I guess you would work with what, like a realtor then after that? Or sell it directly, I suppose?
If the property is, I don't want to say abandoned, but because I don't think the properties were abandoned, they were just being worked on. So she gained possession of those properties by being able to have access to them and go inside of them and stay in them or whatever she was doing. You don't even need to do that. It makes it easier because what you can do is you can go to public records, file a false deed on the property saying that you're now the owner, and then she could put the property up for sale and someone can come and look at the property and say, hey, yeah, this house is worth $400,000. Let's say she's trying to sell it for $350,000. She's going to get a whole bunch of people wanting to buy that house. They schedule a closing, and then she goes and they close on the house. They'll wire her the money wherever she wants it, and she could pull the money out or leave it in her bank account. And the true homeowners may not even find out for months that this has happened, and she could be long gone with the money. So you don't need a real estate agent to do that. You can do that on your own.
Yeah. No, it kind of clicked in my head that you actually don't need. You could sell it straight up. But in one of these situations, I mean, my gosh, do you think she could even, or not she, but just kind of speaking more broadly, I mean, you could have the homeowners coming home to potentially someone else living in their house.
Sure, absolutely. That's happens. I don't want to say, it happens a lot. Like this type of fraud happens all the time, and it's seldomly reported on. It's a very common crime, and it's extremely easy to pull off as a fraudster. I mean, what she did, I've done many times, and you don't have to. The house doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be vacant. It might make it a little easier if it's vacant, but I mean, I've actually borrowed money on people's houses in their name while they are living in the house. I borrowed 3 mortgages, I believe, on a gentleman's house one time while he was living there. He actually had a lien on the property, so I just went down to public records, satisfied the lien on his house. I made a fake ID in his name. I did not have all of his information. I didn't know his social security number. I didn't know his date of birth. I didn't even have his full name. I just made a fake ID, opened up a few bank accounts in his name, and then borrowed, I believe it was 3 or 4 mortgages in his name, and then transferred those funds to the bank accounts and started removing the money before he was ever even notified. So this is not that uncommon.
So in that point, and yes, I wanted to say, just remind folks that if you're just joining us, that Matthew is speaking of previous experience, not anything that he's currently involved in, and there was obviously some legal involvement there. And by the way, just to throw out, if you are concerned potentially about your own home being in one of these situations, or hey, let's say you're in a situation like the one that we were talking about here, your home's getting worked on, there was some damage. I was just talking about the fact that we had here on the show, I would talk about that we had tree damage at one of our like some trees like out back was getting worked on, and we didn't have to move because of that. But we've had a bunch of damage from just really bad windstorms that we've had in the DC area. And God forbid, let's say we left or I went on some work trip or something and come back and something like this happened. But and so of course, if people want to do that, it's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code POSO, and they're right now offering a free title history report plus free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. If I could ask, let's say you're concerned that something might be going on, or you're listening to this, someone's out there listening to it, you're a homeowner, maybe you've got a second property, et cetera, you're a rental property. Is there anything that you can look for? Are there any signs that either something might be amiss, or are there certain types of properties that home title thieves actively target, and what sort of things do they go for?
I would say for the most part, it would be residential properties. It's not necessarily that the house has to be. It would be across the board. You're vulnerable. If you have your properties in Airbnb, you're extremely vulnerable. If you're renting your properties, it's vulnerable. If you're living in your property, you're vulnerable. I mean, if you own a residential piece of property or a commercial piece of property, then your title can be either stolen, or even in your own name, your property can be borrowed against. The real problem is that most people think that their title is secured somehow, and it's not. If you're not having your title monitored, then you're in real danger. And there's nothing specifically for you to look out for, because all of my victims did not have any idea anything had gone wrong until they were notified by either the Secret Service, FBI, or the banks started to foreclose on their properties. And at that point, they realized something's wrong. And then they had to kind of figure out how to deal with it by themselves, because they didn't have a service like Home Title Lock at that time. So that's the problem.
They don't have the service. This pops off, and I mean, you mentioned it. It's like, my gosh, any residential property. Everyone's got a residential property, right? If you're, if you're a homeowner, that's the first thing you have. That's just the most basic thing before you have any, commercial entities or anything like that. And so, this really is something where it's, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Because, I had somebody that I know personally, I've mentioned this before, that this individual was the victim of identity theft and had loans taken out in their name, and the money was taken, and suddenly the bills started coming in, and the person had just completely disappeared. And it was able to be resolved in that case, but it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare going through all the paperwork. And to your point, this is a way for one of these people to use just an identity, basic false identity to skip out and move on to the next one before anyone's even wise, given that time lag. 1 minute till the break.
Right. I would say, that's something many times I would always use a stolen identity or a synthetic identity, and then I would either assume the homeowner's name, or I would transfer the title to the property. And if they had a mortgage on the property, I'd simply file a false satisfaction of mortgage. And then in many cases, I would borrow 3 and 4 mortgages against that property. And the only real thing that could have possibly stopped me was had my victims had some type of a security on their property, which would be Home Title Lock monitoring the title to their house. That's really the only defense for something along like this.
That's the only defense, and that's absolutely chilling. I mean, it's something where, look, you have insurance, you have all sorts of other things out there, folks. This is something you really need to look into. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code POSO. Get you started. There's a free guide up there to help you out. We'll be right back. Jack Posobiec, Matthew Cox, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice, Salem Radio.
Jack is a great guy. He's written a fantastic book. Everybody's talking about it. Go get it. And he's been my friend right from the beginning of this whole beautiful event. And we're going to turn it around and make our country great again. Amen.
Who will be the next pope? Mary Calvi tells us that many in America want to know when it will be one of their own.
Never before has the world had an American pope.
The fact that, well, an American would never be, you never know. Who would have ever thought we would have a pope from Poland? Who would have ever thought we would have a pope from South America?
Cardinal Robert Prevost, the 69-year-old, is the Archbishop of Chicago and the one many are talking about. He is the leader of the Vatican's Dicastery of Bishops. He's also spent years as a missionary in Peru. Two other American cardinals whose names are often mentioned, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the 75-year-old Archbishop of New York, has served as the president of the U.S. Conference of Bishops and chairman of Catholic Relief Services. And then there is Cardinal Joseph Tobin, the 72-year-old Archbishop of Newark, is the Vatican's Secretariat for the Economy and has served as a global missionary, traveling to 70 different countries.
When I'm working long hours, I'm always listening to Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
All right, Jack Posobiec back live, Human Events Daily. Folks, that beautiful blue sky is shining above our White House. By the way, I really can't wait until our opening shot. And, you know, for the folks listening on the Salem Radio Network, you got to see how beautiful this White House is, because there's going to be very soon, in short order, apparently President Trump is paying by himself for 2 huge American flagpoles to be raised above what you're looking at is the executive mansion of the White House there, with the fountain on the south lawn. And so that's the north lawn. You can see the Washington Monument in the back. And then, so you'll see the flagpoles, I believe, on the side that we're looking at right now, as well as a ballroom. He's also going to be paying for a ballroom that he once constructed. And, you know, before the left loses their minds about this, presidents have added additions to the White House for years. There didn't even used to be a West Wing for a long time. And so if you look into the history of the White House, different presidents have made different renovations over the years, and they've all added to the tapestry of the White House. Of course, it was also rebuilt at one point after it was burnt by the British forces, part of which included Canadian troops in the Battle of Washington, D.C. in the War of 1812, which didn't go so well for the United States. But, of course, still alive and kicking, and we got the Star-Spangled Banner out of it by Francis Scott Key while he was held in a British prison ship up in Baltimore Harbor. I don't know why I did that in a Boston accent, but we're just going to go with it, folks. And I did that right off of Fort McHenry. Well, folks, the conclave is set to begin tomorrow. And so for a lot of people now, so if you're Catholic like me, obviously this is a big deal. For conservative Catholics, we're really pushing for a conservative pope. We want someone who is not going to continue in this progressive vein like we saw over the last decade plus under Francis. We want that return to tradition. Of course, the progressives have their candidate up in Parolin. They want him to be a successor, a direct successor. He's the current Secretary of the Vatican to Francis. But then there's also a number of compromise candidates that could be found in the middle. Also a rumor going around, pretty serious rumor about Parolin regarding a health issue, apparently a blood pressure issue that he had at one point. And they were saying that he appeared stiff at one of the early pre-conclave meetings. But the conclave will kick off tomorrow. And so for folks out there who say, well, what does that matter to me? You know, I'm not Catholic, you know, it's just whatever. It's just this, you know, this other denomination that I'm not involved with, or you might not even be Christian, and say, well, you know what? This is a world leader. Okay. This is someone that is going to have a huge impact over billions of people. I think 1.5 billion people in the world. So they matter, and this will have an effect on you, whether you're Catholic or not. And so as conservatives, we want someone in there who is, of course, going to stand for the traditional values of the Roman Catholic Church. And, of course, as a member of that church, like I was saying before, I'm Polish. We pretty much only come in one flavor. And the idea is we don't want there to be this ongoing pressure and friction between the modernists and the traditionalists, the folks who still believe in the Latin Mass, the folks, which, by the way, this side of the church is surging. You go to a Latin Mass right now anywhere in America, and I've tried this, by the way, they're packed. It is standing room only. The women are wearing veils. And by the way, the women, they're young. They're under 30. They're married. They have kids. It's real. This isn't like the online trad wife meme. It's like the real deal. And you see they kneel before they take Eucharist. They're always taking Eucharist on the tongue, never on the hand. Very traditional. And Gen Z is driving this. Gen Z is driving a ton of this. So the risk is if the Vatican leadership that Francis largely chose holds to a continuation of what Francis did, you're going to get more of this. And going back to Parolin, there's another absolute sin that has to be laid at his feet. And that was the corrupt deal that he made with the Chinese Communist Party. Sold out the Christians in China, sold out the Catholics in China, sold out Cardinal Zen. Parolin, you're going to have a guy like that potentially as Pope, leading the pontificate, as the vicar of Christ, sitting in the throne of St. Peter? No, I don't know. But someone who signed that deal, which was worked on with Francis and now ex-Cardinal McCarrick because of his corruption and his crimes. No. I would love to see, by the way, and I hope this goes on at the conclave, I hope someone gets in there and actually one of the conservatives, maybe Cardinal Sarah, gets up and says, you know something? Anyone who supported that deal should not be considered eligible for the papacy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jack Posobiec. You have my permission to lay ashore.